So basically, this is Final Fantasy V. Sensing the impending arrival of a storyline, the King of Tycoon leaves his daughter, Princess Lena, to look after his castle, while he goes on his cool dragon to make sure that the wind crystal is okay. The wind stops as he arrives at the crystal, and okay it is not. Meanwhile, the charitably renamed Bartz and his trusty chocobo companion Boko are caught off guard by a giant meteor landing nearby. Checking it out, he finds Lena, who is in pretty good shape for someone who seemingly just took a meteor to the dome. Nearby they find Gilgamesh, an old man who is slightly less meteor resistant, having lost his memory in the crash. Lena, seeking her father, and Gilgamesh, working on pure instinct, leave to go to the Wind Shrine. Bartz intelligently stays out of it, but less intelligently loses an argument with his pet bird, who convinces him to save the others from a mountain pass that could really do with chilling out a bit. Deciding that maybe he is the main character, Bartz joins them. They find a pirate's cove and go straight for the ballsy move of trying to steal their ship, which goes about as well as you'd expect. Lena goes for the asking nicely approach, and the pirate captain Faris has them thrown in the brig. Faris and Lena have matching pendants though, which is surely a coincidence, so the captain releases them and offers to bring them to the Wind Shrine with their ship, which is pulled along by Sildra, Faris' pet Loch Ness monster. In the Wind Shrine they find a group of very stressed out dandies from Tycoon, who are equal parts worried about the king and also totally fine to wait there and see what happens. Atop the shrine they are each blessed by the shards of the wind crystal.
Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
The king appears and gives them the now customary rundown. Blessed by the crystals, darkness coming, warriors of light. You know the drill. Then he zips out in a magic bubble. As they teleport out, Boko... Oh no, Boko. Is he still just waiting outside that cave? Well, he seems pretty chill about it anyway, and gives them some nice gameplay tips. They head to Tool, where Bartz has a flashback to his childhood, when his father left to protect the crystals. Now far too heroic to keep such company. Faris leaves the pirate crew behind to presumably devastate the small town, and the four heroes of light begin their journey. As they pass through a canal, they are attacked by a sea creature, which makes a whirlpool that causes Sildra to... drown? Enjoying their newly useless ship, they drift aimlessly for a few days until they reach a ship graveyard, which feels about right. After some brief spooky dungeon crawling, they stop for a rest, and following a bit of light sexual harassment from Gilgamesh, it's revealed that Faris is actually a woman. On dry land, which is a literal hop, skip and a jump away, they are met by King Tycoon, Bartz's dead mom, and Gilgamesh's granddaughter, not that he recognises her at all. Their souls get eaten by the obviously not real people, and Faris gets eaten by the king, so I guess she and Lena are definitely sisters. Thankfully, the attack glances right off of Gilgamesh's smooth brain. Being from a different generation, he beats the others until they wake up, as the siren, the source of the attack, appears before them. After a brief fight, she reveals her true form, the dreaded eczema siren, but the heroes quickly do away with her and escape. Hearing that the kingdom of Waltz has been abusing the poor water crystal, but needing a way across the ocean, the heroes journey to the North Mountain to find Hiryu, the king's wind drake, who is on death's door. Urgently needing dragon grass to heal him, the heroes find it like 10 feet away. They fly away on his back and oh, the little overworld dragon is so cute! As they arrive at Waltz, they see that the town is absolutely thriving. They even have a pet whatever that is. The king of Waltz is squeezing every drop of water he can out of that crystal. After achieving surprisingly good results earlier with Faris, Lena asks nicely if he could maybe not do that. As King Waltz, the very well hydrated, is in the process of laughing them out of the castle, they are interrupted by another meteor falling to the north. But not North Mountain north, just somewhat north. The king, really just a huge fan of meteors, immediately goes after it with his army, as the heroes follow close behind. They confirm that, yep, that is in fact a meteor. Then, in the nearby Tower of Waltz, they find the soldiers wiped out, as well as King Waltz, the barely moist, who tells the heroes they were attacked by Garula, that thing from earlier. In the crystal's room they find Beautiful Joe? Very badly trying to stop Garula. After defeating it, the heroes see the water crystal shatter, which nobody could have predicted. The Red Ranger wakes up, reveals he knows Gilgamesh's true identity, then dies. The heroes claim the crystal's power, and suddenly the tower sinks into the ocean. Who else but Sildra shows up to save them? In her mouth? Okay, trust the dragon, I guess. She brings them back to shore safely, then dies. They return to Waltz on their much cooler not dead dragon, where the lack of water crystal seems to have had no effect whatsoever. In the castle, the heroes find King Waltz, the genuinely dehydrated, who says, Yeah, okay, my bad about the crystal, but Karnak has a fire crystal that hasn't shattered yet. They return to the Waltz meteor, which now has a convenient door, and inside an equally convenient teleporter that drops them into another meteor, this time right next to Karnak. Arriving in Karnak town, the heroes are promptly arrested for the crime of buying one flail at the recommended retail price. Thrown into jail in this town of evangelical hagglers, they meet an old man wearing goggles, which can only mean one thing: it's Sid. Less of an airman than his counterparts, Sid is responsible for the machines that are messing up the crystals. As it turns out, he feels bad about all that, and has been trying to save the remaining crystals, but Karnak's fire-powered ship is draining the crystal too heavily. A local fancy pants frees them, and they leave through the castle, which is slightly warmer than it used to be. Aboard the ship, Sid tells the heroes that the engine needs to be destroyed, but it's full of monsters, so he's just gonna provide moral support from the deck. Very quickly, the ship's interior goes from Christopher Columbus to Captain Kirk. The engine room, not unlike the internet, is a series of tubes, guarded by the Queen of Karnak? Oh no, it's a fire elemental. Yeah, that makes more sense. The Queen, understandably, is a bit tired after being mind-controlled and transformed into the Human Torch for a bit, so the heroes go to save the fire crystal. A wolfman shows up and recognizes Guluf, but a mind-controlled soldier overloads the crystal and he sacrifices himself so they can escape the castle before everything blows up. Wait, the castle? We were just in the ship though. No time to explain apparently, so very quickly they ransack the castle for goodies and have a lovely nap. Pockets fit to burst with untold riches, they escape the castle and meet Sid, who is rightfully sulking about maybe causing the end of the world. Overwhelmed by the somber atmosphere, Bartz can't help but play a song on the nearby piano that encapsulates the mood. They head to the Library of the Ancients, where the dandies are having a very bad time. The basement is overrun by monsters, and Sid's grandson, Mid, has gone missing. They fight their way through the library to find Byblos, a monster who seems to know a lot about the evil plans for someone who is a book. Then they find Mid, and together they carry out an upside-down frown maneuver on Sid. Everyone nods at each other quite a lot, and Sid and Mid get to work fixing the fire-powered ship. Meanwhile, Guluf regains his memories and reveals that he's from another planet, sent to stop a thoroughly bad dude, the warlock Exdeath, whose parents really pigeonholed him with that name. Naturally, the crystals are keeping him sealed, but not particularly well considering all the mind controlling going on. Sid presents them with the newly repaired ship, so I guess he was the airship guy after all. But for boats, the airship of the sea, I call them. With the whole world finally open to them, the heroes head to the town of Crescent, and the ship is immediately destroyed by an earthquake. But what a fun 30 seconds that was though. With little else to do on the oddly sickle-shaped island, they check out a nearby forest and tame a black chocobo, which is actually way better at carrying 4 people than pretty much any boat. They take the chocobo to the village of Lix, where it must be a nightmare to get supplies in, only to discover that it's Bartz's hometown. Everyone's happy to see him, but all he can think about is that time his mother died. The wind even more out of their sails than usual, they return to the library and give Sid and Mid the bad boat news, but they couldn't care less and just start making another one. More importantly, King Tycoon has been spotted entering the desert of shifting sands, so they all head there, and Sid comes up with a plan to make a bridge across the sands by summoning a sandworm and killing it.
Listen again!
They make their way through the desert to Gon, the aptly named town of ruin. I mean really, the inn, the shops, the people are all gone. King Tycoon is there and he is kinda taking the piss. Faris remembers at last that she is his daughter, but then he drops them through a trapdoor, which will definitely add to Faris's therapy bill. They take a really steampunk looking teleporter to somewhere under Crescent, and find not just the oddly intact sea airship, but also an air airship. Refusing to miss his chance, Sid appears to fulfill his destiny of being the airship guy after all. As they enjoy their new airship, they see a massive flying fortress come out of the ground under the town of Ruin, which is definitely going now. They learn from Sid that it contains the Earth Crystal and fly up, taking out its anti-air defenses. Inside the Ronkan ruins, they find King Tycoon, whose path is blocked by a cute little flying snake. It is now less cute. As they reach the crystal beyond the snake, King Tycoon hits them with a mahahaha, which is rarely a good sign. Yeah, he's definitely mind-controlling evil right now. But Guluf's granddaughter, Kryl, and I need to be clear about this, lands a meteor on the flying fortress with pinpoint precision and arrives just in time to blast the king out of the way. Guluf gets his memory back and the king snaps out of it, reuniting with his daughters Lena and Sarissa, The crystal shatters and Exdeath gets a classic bad guy intro. He taunts them and says Galuf's world is next. The king sacrifices himself in order to keep the power of the crystal alive, and they absolutely haul ass out of there as the fortress is destroyed. On the airship, Galuf tells Bartz of how he and 3 others, the Dawn Warriors, sealed Exdeath away 30 years prior. He and Krile decide to return to their world in pursuit of Exdeath without the others. Left with basically nothing to do with their time now, Bartz, Lena and Faris quickly decide they should find a way to follow Galuf to his world. Sid, of course, is all up inside the meteors already. They hatch a plan to use adamantite to gather energy from the meteors and use it as fuel to journey to Galuf's world. Sid also stole their black chocobo, which is noted and won't be forgotten. They visit each meteor and use their power to warp to the other world. It's pretty much the same as the last one, but this one has little green demon boys and they kidnap the gang. They wake up in Exdeath's castle and this dude is really leaning into the mwahaha. He kind of looks like Golbez from 4 if he was left on a windowsill for too long. Galuf and his army of Red Rangers have reached the big bridge, so Exdeath bat signals the other heroes into the sky with a mysterious alien device known only as the Giant Mirror. He threatens to kill them, so Galuf falls back, and Exdeath calls forth his most powerful warrior, Gilgamesh, to guard them. Galuf flies to the castle by Windrake and 1v1s Gilgamesh, who is disappointingly pathetic, freeing the others. The heroes fight their way across the big bridge, facing off against Gilgamesh again, who is really ready for a fight that— oh, never mind. Krile appears as a giant magical barrier emanates from Castle Exdeath. She avoids it as the others are sent flying, landing in the not-so-nearby land of Glosiana. They make their way to the town of Regol, which hasn't seen visitors in years. The innkeeper seizes this opportunity by letting the party stay for free, leaving the financially ruinous inn nicely well rested. They carry on until they enter a forest with a Moogle, who jumps into a hole. Following, because why wouldn't you do that? They find the Moogle about to be attacked by a spooky little skeleton, which is actually a T-Rex. The Moogle asks them to follow him, and shows them the path to its village. Unfortunately, they're still in the cave, and didn't see any of that. Eventually they find their way to the Moogle village, where their new friend telepathically tells Krile's Moogle their location. She flies there on her Windrake and brings them back to the castle. Galuf's castle. As it turns out, he's the king, and the Power Ranger army is his to command, making him Zordon, I guess. New problem though. The Windrake is in a bad way and will need some dragon grass or he'll die. They decide to go to Drakenvale and look for some. Ready for all-out war, they leave the castle to break through the siege of Exdeath's evil horde. One of them. Exhausted from their grueling battle, they make their way to Quelb, the werewolf village, where they meet Kelger, another of the Dawn Warriors. Kelger gives Bartz the old until Bartz hits him with the NANI? He then reveals that Bartz's father, Dorgan, was a Dawn Warrior also, and that when they sealed Exdeath 30 years prior, Dorgan stayed behind to ensure the seal stayed intact. Now that everyone's caught up, Kelger has the villagers open the gate to Drakenvale. They ascend the mountain and find Dragongrass, which is an awful lot angrier in this world. They pummel it into a more agreeable shape and return to Galuf's castle. They enter the castle to find that Krile has fallen ill. She implores them to find a sage called Guido, who is very, very old. They fix up the Windrake, fly to Guido's island, and... okay... They don't do that, and go to this castle over here, which was their plan all along. Turns out it belongs to Zizat, the 4th Dawn Warrior. He's off about to get wrecked by Exdeath though, so they steal a bunch of his stuff and then fly over to help him. As Zizat prepares his attack, Exdeath gets the jump on him, and they face Gilgamesh a 3rd time. He embarrasses himself again, obviously. Zizat reveals that the fleet was a decoy, and really they're going to use a submarine to reach one of the towers powering the barrier around Exdeath's castle. He heads for the basement to destroy the generator, while the heroes go for the antenna. As they reach it, Zizat overloads the generator, and they fight Atomos, a biblically accurate Kirby. The antenna is destroyed, but Zizat is trapped in the generator room. The party escapes on Deus Ex Windrake as Zizat gets blown up. Galuf mourns his old friend, but good news, free submarine. They can now explore the ocean floor, and guess who's recently moved there? That's right, Guido. His cave is surprisingly dry, and Bartz and the others fight through an army of the elderly to find the sage, who is a turtle. He explains that Exdeath is seeking out something in the great forest of Moor, where he was born. Well, not exactly born. He was just a particularly evil tree who got so evil that he became him. Which, I mean, that explains the name. If you were a big bag of evil who had just achieved sentience, you'd probably think Exdeath was a cool name too. Guido gives them a guardian branch, which will serve them in the forest as a light in the darkness, but also as a tree in the trees. Within the Forest of Moor, the heroes make their way through by using some oddly disgusting tree doors. Exdeath sets the forest on fire, but the heroes are saved by jumping into a Moogle den. As they emerge, the forest is thoroughly knackered. They go inside the Great Guardian tree and are attacked by 4 blue things. They save the world from the blue things. Psych. Those were actually the seals, idiots. Exdeath claims the power of the crystals as his own and quadruple lasers the shit out of them. Krile shows up to help, but Exdeath ragdolls her around for a bit. Galuf, insistent that nobody beat his loved ones but him, gets up and overloads the crystal. Jesus Christ. Is he gone Super Saiyan or is he just on fire? Galuf uses the forbidden technique of just not dying at 0 health for a while, but then makes an unexpected move and dies anyway. The others, to their credit, do actually try and bring him back with a phoenix down, saving them countless eye-roll inducing Reddit posts. As Krile mourns the loss of her grandfather, his spirit grants her his power and warns her that Exdeath is about to destroy the crystals. Krile decides to join the others, taking Galuf's place. Now to go stop Exdeath. If only they had a way there. Ah, here he is. As they return to Castle Exdeath, they find that the Red Ranger, and even the Red Ranger have been defeated. As Krile tries to remove the illusion blocking her path, Galuf's spirit visits Kelger just before he dies, and they lend their power to Krile somehow. Either way, the illusion's gone, and now it definitely suits Exdeath's kind of adolescent tryhard vibe. Lots of lava, skulls, and drawings of that cool S later. They have their final showdown with Gilgamesh, on whom his theme song is very much wasted. Exdeath decides he's perfectly capable of embarrassing himself and banishes Gilgamesh to another dimension. They find Exdeath and slap him around, but after they defeat him, the 3 crystals shatter. The heroes are knocked out as the castle falls apart around them. They wake up just outside Castle Tycoon? That blast must have had a serious kick to it. The world looks more crowded than before, but Lena and Faris get right back to being royalty, and Faris in princess mode makes Bart suddenly very thirsty for some salt water. Bart and Krile leave them at it and go find Boko, who has been abandoned for so long. He's gotten married and started a family, but he's more than happy to abandon them himself, having learned from the best, so he can help Bart's cross exactly 2 rivers. They fall down a hole, which Bart's kindly decides is Boko's fault. Faris, having decided being a princess is super boring, arrives to help them out of the hole, laying a fresh abandonment on Boko's shoulders once again. Bart's and the others head into what turns out to be Guido's cave. The turtle slaps them with an exposition dump. The 2 planets have now merged. They were separated 1,000 years ago to stop a supremely bad dude called Enuo from using the Void, which is only the finest, most full-bodied evil. It was sealed between the 2 worlds, within a realm called the Interdimensional Rift. Exdeath appears, having turned himself into a tiny splinter in Krile's finger, the absolute weirdo. He doesn't do much else himself, but the Void starts to open right on top of Castle Tycoon. I guess Lena's dead? Exdeath lightning bolts everyone, and then gets 1v1 by a turtle before yeeting them all out of the cave. They are met by Lena, who is now possessed by a demon. Exdeath is also just kinda there. He destroys the library, including the Fancy Men and Guido. Lena's Windrake sacrifices himself to expel the demon from Lena, and the others attack. With the demon gone, Lena rejoins the party, who are fit to burst from chugging all those high potions without their healer. The party reclaims their airship as Exdeath, in a fit of void rage, destroys castles and towns all over the world, even the Moogle forest, which is particularly harsh. Bart asks him to stop, which actually doesn't work. Enraged, he sets the airship to ludicrous speed, which does nothing but looks cool at least. Meanwhile, Exdeath has assembled a squad more diverse than a Netflix teen drama. He sends 3 of them, a Jester, Dr. Manhattan, and Oscar the Grouch, to find and kill the heroes. The heroes are finally ready to enter the Rift and take the fight to Exdeath. The Rift is honestly kinda nice. You can tell Exdeath had absolutely no input. Eventually, they reach a very last boss looking area, blue crystals floating in space galore. Now, in the depths of the Rift, they find who else but Gilgamesh, who really just wants to get out of here, like really badly. He leaves, but later comes back to show off his amazing theme song one last time. He gives each of the heroes completely unsolicited advice before sacrificing himself to kill an enemy they already had completely under control. Finally, they reach Exdeath, who has claimed the power needed to become the ultimate life form, a tree. He absolutely voids the face off of basically everyone on the planet, and then the heroes themselves. They find themselves floating in space, but are helped by the spirits of the Dawn Warriors, and King Tycoon, I guess. The spirits hold Exdeath's power back long enough for the heroes to attack, and Oh, God. That's not what he looked like at all. After a bit of lumberjack work, Exdeath turns into something slightly more on-brand, but he is no match for the heroes' combined strength. Victorious but left floating in the void, the heroes relinquish their crystal shards to make the crystals anew. The void returns all the towns and castles it previously messed up, and leaves, hoping nobody noticed. The Dawn Warriors, +1, give them a collective nod of approval as they return to the world on the Windrake through the power of magic sparkles. 1 year later, Cid receives a letter from Krile. She doesn't know if she'll take over Galuf's throne, but she's enjoying the peace in the meantime. Lena and Faris are ruling Tycoon, while Bartz is spending time in his hometown, near his parents. Krile returns to the Guardian Tree to leave flowers for Galuf, lamenting that without him she's alone in the world. Bartz, Lena and Faris appear to remind her she's anything but. They resolve to watch over the newly remade crystals, as the Dawn Warriors did before them, and set off on a new journey at each other's sides.